Okay, everyone, welcome. This is a Planning and Zoning Commission special meeting. Today is Tuesday, October 29th, 2024. It is 7 o'clock, and we are in room 206 of Town Hall. Right? We're 206?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So getting right into it, we are going to, based on the agenda, do we need a vote to skip this? No, right? We're not doing executive session or the general meeting, so we're going to jump right into the public hearing tonight. So I will read in the first item and get going. Coastal Site Plan Review, number 382, Land Filling and Regrading Application, number 577, PL-24-134. Tresa Toscano, 201 Long Neck Point Road. Proposal to construct a new 5-bedroom single-family dwelling in generally the same location as the existing residence. Construction of a new reconfigured driveway and parking courts, terrace areas, retaining walls, and a pool, and to perform related site development activities within a regulated area, including regrading of the property and installation of stormwater management. The 2.28 plus or minus acre subject property is located on the east side of Long Neck Point Road, approximately 1,020 feet south of its southernmost intersection with Pear Tree Point Road, and is shown on Assessor's map number 61 as Lot 8 in the R1 zone. Gentlemen, what do we have? What do we got?
Yeah, this is a demo rebuild. The existing non-conforming cottage on the property is to remain. The application was submitted in conformance with sections 810 and 850 of the Darien zoning regulations under our coastal site plan and landfilling regrading regulations. The application was referred out to Joe Canis of Ty and Bond. He submitted comments for the record dated October 25th. The applicant's engineer, Andy Sumalides of Landtech, submitted a response to Mr. Canis's comments today on the 29th, and Mr. Canis issued a final endorsement this morning, which has been emailed to you and uploaded to the application as well. The application was also referred out to the building department. The building official, Mike Vitti, noted no issues with the application. It was also referred out to Connecticut DEP. Connecticut DEP submitted comments for the record dated October 25th. DEP notes that the proposed development takes place upland of the 100-year floodplain on site. Impervious coverage will be increasing, but the stormwater management system appears adequate to accommodate runoff from the new structure and driveway. And soil erosion and sediment controls appear adequate to mitigate the risks of sediments and pollutants being carried into Long Island Sound. We also received a letter from the Darien Land Trust late this afternoon. I believe Jeremy emailed that letter out to you. The Land Trust had a few concerns relative to the removal of specimen trees on the property, as well as some of the extensive regrading and potential stormwater flows as a result of the project. I note that we also received several letters from adjoining neighbors, again, concerns relative to removal of specimen trees on the property and the extensive regrading. Andy Sumalides of Landtech and his team are here this evening to fill in the details and present the application to you.
Welcome. Just quick, I didn't see Canis's response. I saw Andy's response to Canis's original response, but not the response to that.
I believe it was uploaded to the application. We'll double check on that and make sure that it does get uploaded.
I think it is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Today?
it is.
Late in the day.
The last thing was the Land Trust at 457.
It's actually above.
Yeah, it's number, yeah, it's above the, there's version 2 and version 1.
Oh, Ty and Bond. Oh, version 2. There
Yeah,
we go.
version 2.
Ah, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
There it is.
Version 2.
Okay, never mind. Welcome. Please
frequent flyer here, but for the record, introduce yourself for the...
Sure. For the record, Andy Soumelides, Soumelides, from Land Tech out of Westport. I'm a principal and professional engineer. Also with me today are the architects, Chris and Danilo, as well as landscape architect Bruce Eckerson, and Brian Carey, Director of Environmental Services from Land Tech, as well as the owner, Mr. Toscano. Here's just an aerial just to get you oriented a bit.
Moving the bag.
Yours
there.
is from-
Yeah,
Sure,
thanks.
thank you.
Yeah, perfect, thank you.
Sure. Just to get you oriented a bit, outlined in blue, here's the property. It's 201 Long Neck Point. Down to the south here is 203, to the north is 173. Right here is 181 Long Neck Point. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but this area here is in that open space, as you can tell kind of by the differentiated of, natural lawn versus a natural habitat. And obviously to the east, Long Island Sound.
And the driveway accessing the property is part of the parcel, or is it an easement on the property to the east?
No, this is our own access.
So you own it, it's not an
Correct.
easement there, okay.
Correct. So this just shows our existing conditions of the property. It's currently a single-family residence with a detached garage. In this location, the property is serviced by septic currently. There is a sewer lateral there, and we propose to connect to that. There is a smaller patio out here in the rear yard. Here's that septic. A part of the septic in that patio is within that 100-foot CAM review area that we plan to remove. The property is about 2.3 acres. It's also worth noting that the property slopes from west to east with about a 24-foot grade change in that direction, so about 6%. It is somewhat gentle, but there is a decent grade change that we need to deal with in order to redevelop this property. That one next. Under existing conditions, we have about 18,000 square feet of impervious surfaces, which, the existing driveways to remain that access drive, but the rest is pretty much a tear down rebuild of the balance of the site. In proposed conditions, we'll have about 30,000 square feet of impervious surfaces, and the way we deal with that is by introducing a fairly large underground detention system. So it's 35 Coltex of the 300s, so fairly large in size, and the purpose of those Coltex is for water quality. As you folks are aware, when you're on Long Island Sound, you don't really need to treat the volume, the runoff rate, and we're more highly concerned with water quality. So this treats the one inch of runoff of all new impervious surfaces. The required is about 2,700 cubic yards, and we're providing almost 2,900 cubic yards within that drainage system. On larger storms, you will overflow here to a long level spreader. The level spreader in length is 57 linear feet. The purpose of the level spreader is to dissipate flows as they eventually go out into Long Island Sound. The existing seawall is about 7 to 8 feet in height, which acts as a nice barrier to protecting the coastal resources, the tidal wetlands, the rocky shorefront, and those resources. Right here is the base flood elevation, special flood hazard area. All of our development is outside of that special flood hazard area, so no, we don't need to do anything
And
special.
you're not touching the seawall, right?
We're not touching the seawall. So in terms of, I mentioned it earlier, we're banning the septic and connecting to sewer as part of this proposal as well. We provided a drainage report that was reviewed by Mr. Canis. He had some minor comments that we addressed. One of those was the existing driveway does go off our property in this location. So what we did was just pull that back within our own access way in the latest revised plans. So that's what's before you tonight. And the other ones were fairly minor in nature, his comments, which we fully addressed.
Do we, Jeremy, do we need to get health department for abandoning the septic, or is that handled at building time?
That'll be handled when they get the building permit. They'll have to abandon the septic
We
system.
don't need any comments ahead of time about that, no?
No,
Okay.
and then they'll need a sewer connection
Yeah,
permit.
yeah, of course. Okay, nope, just checking on that.
In his latest revised letter received this afternoon, he had no further comment, and he seemed satisfactory with our proposal.
The big change was pulling out that tree and fixing the driveway so it stays on the property, right?
Correct, and we'll get into some of the trees in a second.
Okay.
In terms of the coastal area management, which is the application before you, as well as the next and fill, we have no impacts to the coastal resources as described earlier. There's also a letter that was provided by Connecticut DEP, who also did a review of our application and concurs with our findings, that there will be no impacts based on this development.
And basically just the pool is what's in the CAM, right?
Correct.
Yep.
A portion of the pool
Yeah.
and some patio, which is about 2,000 square feet of area. This is our landscape rendered plan. I think there's some concerns, and this is a good time probably to bring up some concerns that we got, some letters from the neighbors, as well as a letter today at 5 p.m. from the Darien, the Land Trust of Darien, who we know well and work with. I think some of the neighbors' concerns are regarding vegetation coming down. So Brian Carey of our office is a licensed arborist, and he went out there and inspected these trees, and they're just not in great shape. These existing trees, they may be fairly large, but they're just not in great shape. There's documentation here of a few of them here in these photos. If you want to know a little bit more in depth, Brian can describe that a little bit more to you folks. So we are looking to remove a few large trees along the southern border here. There are a few trees as part of the development that need to come down as well. But we are replanting with 71 new trees. 54 of those are these, screen trees along the northern border, right? But we do have 17 specimen trees as well as part of this planting plan, as well as some grasses and the such. And if you need to hear more of that, Bruce is here to elaborate further. In terms of one of the other concerns was the drainage patterns. So I'll just flip back to this, and in particular along the southern border. But if you go back to this aerial, just to make you aware again, this is that open space, right? Like we are here, and the concern is runoff going into open space into Long Island Sound, just so we're clear of the impacts of the neighbors and the land trust. In red here is our proposed drainage area that goes to that area, which is about 16,000 square feet of lawn area. Like I said before, all the impervious surfaces are getting picked up and piped into this underground detention system. Under existing conditions, it's a very similar area. It's about 22,000 square feet of lawn area. Again, that sheet flows into that direction. So not much change in the hydrology of that southern border.
Is there retention on it now?
No.
No, so.
It's sheet flow again,
So everything
and
is
it's
flowing
gonna
down.
mimic that in the proposed conditions.
It looks like it goes from about 16 down to about 10, maybe 7, all the way at the very, very bottom corner. Is that right?
Yes, so the bottom corner is about 10, and up in here, you're about 20.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's going that way right now.
It's going that way now, and it's gonna continue going that way in the proposed condition. I think folks see a lot of lines on plans and say it's really steep and such. So the way the design worked here, instead of doing hard walls, along the back to terrace down, we wanted a more natural approach, which is actually better. So this will be, this is all gonna be landscape with lawn and grasses and the such. So it'll also treat the runoff as it comes off our property.
What's the changing grade
From,
proposed to existing?
and where exactly?
From where to where?
Right around where the septic is, or the Coltex are going?
The Coltex,
Like it looks like you're
oh,
at
in here?
7, yeah.
That's existing. That's gonna be basically existing. It's
So,
about
no,
18.
to the left of that, it looks like it's about 17, 15.
So here's where it starts sloping up. The residence is at elevation 30.
Yep.
And then you have some of these upper terraces, and then there's a slope with landscape steps that get you down to the pool and lower lawn, let's call it. And that's at elevation 18.
And that's where you're changing the grade?
No, we're not changing the grade in here. This is,
Where are you changing the grade?
we're changing the grade basically to cascade down from the house. So it's really in between the pool and lower lawn to the back of the house
I see.
that we need to get down to that existing grade.
So in this review watershed area, you're not changing the grade?
No.
Okay.
So the grade change primarily is beefing up to create the platform
The
for
level patio.
the house and the level patio, and then it's condensing the grade change from that point to where all those lines are, where you're mimicking those stairs in the middle.
Yeah, the existing house is actually a pretty funky design. You like walk into the front door and you go down a set of staircases to get to the first floor. So it's kind of getting into that normal platform like you would normally build a house and come into the normal foyer and there's your living space. Right now you walk into the existing house and you kind of go down a flight to go to the main living.
I noticed on the plan, there's a reference to a reference to an easement in your existing site conditions. It's not on this page, but on the other, yes, here it is. Easement in favor of parcel B1 and parcel B2B and other land of Mary C. Ewing. Over here, right where your driveway turns left, it's in light gray. Can you tell me more about what that easement is referring to?
Pointing to the T in the
Is it
driveway.
this here?
It's the text above it, but it points to the corner of the driveway.
It has 3 different arrows. And I'm not quite sure what that easement is referring to.
Oh, I see what you're saying. This
Yeah.
little
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
rectangle here.
well, there's the reference to the easement then has 3 arrows. One looks like it's going to a shed, one looks like it's going to,
The shed is
A
just showing
walkway?
the dimension.
yeah, but Andy, if you want to, you see.
What is the easement?
It's this easement continues down.
To the water.
If you
Yeah.
scroll that way, it's an
Yep.
access easement down to the water.
Correct.
Okay,
Oh, so they have an easement on this property?
Yes.
okay. So, and that is which homeowner?
The one probably to the left, right?
The Dailies, okay. Okay, so they've got access easement down to the water in that corridor there. If you were to run that driveway just straight through, that's roughly
Correct.
the easement process?
Right,
Okay,
because here, this isn't our land here.
yeah, and there's
Our
no
land ends here.
building or obstructions that are gonna be happening
No.
during through that corridor?
Correct, we're not changing anything there.
What's the amount of cut and fill net?
The cut and fill number. It is a net fill of about 1,800 cubic yards.
Okay, so that's gonna be 40 trucks, more or less?
Something, yeah, if you do the math. Somewhere in that range.
Was a truck hold 18?
It's 18 to 22.
Seems like
And
20.
1,800 would be
Divided
9,
by 20.
100.
Almost
Yeah.
100,
100.
yeah.
It's a lot of trucks.
That doesn't account for the spoils of the
Right,
foundations. We
which are-
typically don't do those in these X and fill numbers. So it is a pretty decent sized foundation. So it's somewhere south of that number for sure.
Okay. All right. Do we want to hear from why don't we hear from your arborist about the trees? Because I
Sure.
think that's going to be,
Oh, thanks, Ian. Appreciate it.
Good evening, Brian Carey, Connecticut licensed arborist and environmental scientist with Land Tech. I'm the director of environmental sciences
welcome.
for services for the company. So I was asked to go out and look at these trees because I believe it just became a little bit of an issue. I was able to walk the site yesterday morning. I guess there's a couple trees that are of question, and I was able to look at them. And if you look at your site plans, the surveyors aren't always the best at properly identifying the trees. So,
Looks like some oaks,
but
right?
they do their best. But there's a sycamore here that I was able to inspect. There's what's labeled as a 36-inch oak
Yep.
on the property. That's actually a Norway maple.
Okay.
And then there's a linden tree that's labeled as an oak down here. And then there's some other minor ornamental trees up in the front of the property. And then there was a sycamore here, that was another one in
The big,
question.
yeah, the big sycamore's coming out for the driveway, right?
Yeah, so I did look at the sycamore, and generally I apply the ISA basic hazard assessment tree rating for these trees, but where they are located in the landscape, that wasn't really a practical assessment, just because if they were to fall over, it wouldn't create a lot of damage on the property per se. That being said, the trees, while the sycamore does have proper branch structure and it is a beautiful tree, there is an issue if you go out there and look at the root plate. A tall tale sign that this may be having root failure is when you see the tree starting to lean and the area around the tree itself, the plate is actually starting to lift. Generally, the crown will be intact and you'll have good branch structure, but that would be, there might be something systematically wrong with the root structure. So if you go out there and look at that, that tree does have about a 45% lean already.
Okay.
Does that mean it's going to fall over today, tomorrow? Probably not. If there was a decent sized storm, the proximity of this to the house and a windstorm, there's a chance that would fall over. So there is some structural deficiency going on within the root structure itself on this tree, and you can kind of see it. A lot of the trees that were planted on the property, the previous homeowner, he was very knowledgeable, and it appeared that he had planted a lot of the trees on the property. Some of them you can tell when they were planted, they weren't properly planted because they have either girdling root, or you can see that the what's called volcano type of mulch has been put around them.
Over it, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different issues with the tree. This Norway maple, you don't need to be an arborist to go out there and look at it. It's got trees growing out of the tree, which page 1 of the arborist the arborist manual will say that there's structural deficiencies. More than 40% of the crown is missing on this tree, and there's actually a split that's running down the center of the tree, included wood growing. So that tree really just should come out, not to mention Norway maple we know is invasive. And then again, this linden tree down here, I didn't have good pictures of it, but terrible branching structure in the tree, a lot of included wood. This tree is probably at the most risk of coming down during a storm, a general 20 to 35 mile an hour storm. I did read some of the comments that were submitted into the record. There are no active nesting going on in any tree. You can tell there's no osprey or eagle nests in there. Very, very, very easy to observe that. As far as perching, any tree along the coastline that's of significant size, there's going to be an opportunity to provide some habitat for perching. But that being said, based on the condition of the tree, it's probably not worth keeping. At some point in the near future, that thing's going to split. It's co-dominant, so basically when the winds start blowing, it'll pull the tree apart.
And are you planning on putting anything back in those areas?
So that was really that wasn't part of my, that wasn't part of what I was tasked to do, was put together a landscape plan. I know that the landscape architect, we had a brief conversation about, what are some alternatives that could go in there.
We have them.
Yeah. Well, I know one of the things that, just our line of work, one of the hardest things to do is to plant trees along the
coastline. Yeah. There's not a lot of deep ground to stick into.
A lot of people want, they want their view, and, they basically have the property to get the view. So in doing that, we try to provide, plantings that provide habitat benefit, but also are not going to obscure those views. That being said, there, you know, these other trees, which are, you know, weren't part of the concerns as much. I mean, there's structural things that we can do to preserve this sycamore here. That is actually one of the better trees I looked at on the site.
That's the one where the
The-
driveway
the
turns left.
turn, yeah.
The ones that look
Yeah,
to be
so-
the most majestic tree in that.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's
Vicinity.
things, anytime you cut in the drip line of a tree, there is a risk of, you know, damaging the tree. But certain things, putting fencing, and doing like minor root pruning and then fertilization after the work is done are all things that can be, you know, put into a plan to help preserve the tree. Again, you know, it's really, trees are a living thing in the environment. They respond to different stimulus. Trying to, you know, hopefully control that as best as you can and hope for a positive outcome is really what we try to do. But that being said, a lot of these trees along the property line are ornamental. Some of them are non-native. There's a pagoda tree. I don't think that's, I think that's only being removed to put in the screening buffer. And I'll let the landscape, but all of these trees that are being put in, most of them are, they're all native. Green giants are native, even though people use them for screening purposes. And then the red cedar, which is a great coastal tree, does well in the coastal environment. A lot of birds use it for roosting and nesting, so that is something that we normally specify in the coastal environment. Can take salt spray, and if you look at most storms, the only thing that's standing after a coastal storm are generally red cedars. So we don't like cutting trees down. I don't like cutting trees down, but based on what I saw out there, in my professional opinion, it's just a matter of time before those trees would be coming down associated with this application or part of something in the future.
Some storm. Okay. Mr. Architect. Welcome.
Thank you.
Just name.
For the record, Bruce Eckerson, Principal Eckerson Design Associates in Norwalk. The landscape plan was developed really to provide some privacy along the northern property line, a mixture of cedar, arborvitae. There are a few cryptomeria in there as well, and they seem to do well down by down the shore. We also will be doing plantings below the wall that to the east of the pool. We'll do plantings, ornamental plantings up and around the house. That palette hasn't been established yet, but we're going to be doing that. We do want to bring in some trees to line the driveway and also create a kind of sense of entry and separation between the driveways.
And where those are coming out, those three? Is there anything going in?
These
No,
three?
down at the...
Down here?
Yeah,
At the
western.
moment, there's not.
So they're just going to be pulled out?
Right.
Okay. They can be grassed over, landscaped over?
It
or-
would be, yeah,
or
right
used
now,
to-
it would be reverted to lawn, which is basically there.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Similides, I think, referred to 17 additional trees going in, other than the ornamentals, the 79 or whatever.
Well, there are these trees, and then there are these trees along the driveway.
You think those include the 17 or not anywhere else?
Did you?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
You referred to 17 additional trees beyond the ornamental, the screening on the boundaries, and then there'd be another 17. I'm wondering where they are.
Sure, these are these trees.
The trees around the driveway?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly, and these are the 54
Okay,
arborvitae. This is an existing hedge
right,
that exists, and these are the new screen trees.
okay.
There's nothing, you know,
Yeah,
again,
these
there's nothing to
screen-
screen on the south side,
Yeah, 'cause
right?
it's
There-
lower
because
elevation.
that's all open space.
Yeah.
There is we are proposing a fence along that southern border, so there is an opportunity to do some landscaping up against that fence, probably to hide that fence with low shrubbery. So we can certainly incorporate that as well. If you as a condition to do some additional shrubs, and we could probably sneak in a few bigger trees
Okay.
further up.
And so, does anybody else have any questions
Just
for the?
Can I
Yeah.
just, looking at the land trust letter, they're asking that the landscape materials include native trees, but you're saying they are native trees? I'm just trying to
Yeah,
understand.
the only ones
what
that
the-
we don't have native at the moment are the cryptomeria along this side up here, but they're kind of up and away from the coastal resource.
I just wondered, okay.
We were just trying to mix up, it's a long line, we were trying to mix up the varieties, so.
And just to, wrap up the landscaping, I mean, it is a very soft landscape approach, as you can see, it's like stone set in the slope, and, it's all lawn
Retention
steps.
walls and
Yeah,
stuff.
rather than hard terraces
Yeah,
with
steps and
with steps going down,
leveling.
it is a soft landscape approach to get down towards the coast.
Okay. Amy, any questions for the landscape? one?
Not yet, no, not right now.
Landscape?
I'm good, thank you.
George?
Okay.
Okay, switching gears back towards the cut and the fill. So I saw that the maintenance plan for the drainage in the appendix of your drainage report. That looks good. We'll do the usual where we'll put a reference in the land record for that. Do you have somewhat of either a schedule or a phase on what's going on with the cut and fill of all these trucks? Like the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, how do you anticipate that coming and going? Is it going to be trucks all the time? Are you going to, you start this in the spring? Is it going to be dump trucks coming up and down Long Neck every day? Or is it phases? How does that?
Yeah, typically, and maybe Chris could jump in here too, in terms of construction sequences,
Yeah.
The builder wants to get the foundation in first, right? So he can start with the rest of the house. So you go in, you demo the existing house, that you get that off-site, and then you dig for the foundation, so there'll be some excess material that'll be stockpiled onto the side of the property.
Yep.
In a project like this, it could easily be coming in, typically a builder will source some material close to the site to reduce cost of trucking. But it's really the contractor, it's up to the contractor on how that ends up happening. There's no real, hey, bring 10 trucks today and 10 trucks in a month or whatever. It's typically left up to the contractor at that point. But you go in, you get the foundation in, you stockpile some material, and then you bring in material as you need it.
Ponderance of, it's a net fill number, which is gonna be happening at the end of the job realistically when all of that fill is coming in for the landscaping and the terracing and all of that.
Yeah, well, what happened is you get the foundation in and kind of
Yeah.
grade around the house so people then can work and
Yeah.
build the rest of the house.
Yeah.
So there'll be a phase in the beginning when some
Yeah.
material is coming,
Yeah.
and then exactly to your point, there'll be a phase at the end when
Yeah,
the
when they're
majority
doing all
comes
the-
to do the final grading and the landscaping.
Yeah.
Okay. In the past, we put hours on the trucks
Yeah.
on Long Neck, so that wouldn't be an issue for you guys, right?
Now, if that's typical of what you guys do, then
Yeah.
Yeah, that's typical what we do.
Nope.
Okay, well, I don't have any further questions. Want to go down the line before we open it up to the general public? Amy?
I think I've got my questions. One was about the easement. I assume there's no view easements, over the property, okay? Yeah, those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Good.
Mr. Nutter?
Okay.
Good.
Good, okay. I don't have any further questions now, so this is a public hearing, so I will open this up to the general public. Is there anyone here from the general public who would like to speak, sir? Sure. Welcome up to the podium. Just state your name and address. We did receive, as staff noted, we did receive public comment from the neighbors, which has been included in the record, so I'm not sure. Yeah. But anyway, I'll let you speak.
So I'm Renee Mathis,
Welcome.
and I live right here.
Okay.
And I met Dan the first time on Sunday. We had a nice chat, and I told him a bunch of my concerns, and maybe I just put them on the record here today. There are no view easements, even though my neighbors have a massive problem. So I'm not here to talk about your view easements, although this looks like Fenway Park is my only issue. The fuchsia trees are 35 feet tall, but that's nothing that I can't address with Dan, and maybe I'd like to support Tom soften that out of it. But just from experience living here since 2007, as I mentioned to Dan, our driveway used to go all the way through here, and we cut that off. after the Crimmins families left. They were a Crimmins, we were a Crimmins, etc. Water flows down this way and goes across this here into the sound, and you can almost see it persistently bubbling up about here and piling up about here, and sometimes when we get big rains, it floods out down there. So that's, I would have concern about this impervious drive and anything flowing north, just like the land trust has going south with regard to grading. Or when we get rain, it comes horizontal from the sea, and it's a lot of rain. So my driveway dumps a lot of rain actually coming in. It used to come down here where we used to have a driveway. I made it all grass, so I put a Cultec system in there so Mark wouldn't have a massive amount of rain on his property, but it's still there. I mean, it comes this way and that way. So if this gets narrower and this gets impervious down here, it's all going to come at me. Although my land slopes in, his land slopes in a bit, it's still sort of a bit of an alleyway. And my main concern is that the seawall busts. During Sandy, they had to replace theirs, repair it, and we had to do some work on ours. I don't know if they put enough rebarb in there, because I was watching them to make this, so you guys might want to think about looking at that. There is a pipe here you can see on one of the plans where it constantly flows out. Water's always going into the sound right about right there. So it's really grading water, the look and feel of going this way, because it's very pastoral out there. I can sit at my pool and just look at Long Island Sound, and it is beautiful. I'd like to keep that as much as possible, so I could work together. That'd be great. Other than that, we love the bald eagles. I see them every summer. They come by, they swoop in. But I've also seen a couple dozen trees fall down. 2 went in my pool, some came off of Mark's property, so the age of these trees, as much as the land trust would like to keep them, and I'd like to keep them there as well for the birds and the osprey, they're going to fall down at some point in time. And I have a 50-foot tulip tree right about here, which I have maintained every year, so they come down along that point.
You are the brick house?
Yes. Yes. And it's, probably needs to be rebuilt like this too at some point in time. But that's my concern. It's just the water grading is the issue, and obviously 40 trucks coming down for summers 2 years in a row is going to be a pain again, because there's too much construction on Long Lake Point.
The number of applications we see, I think it might be 3, 4, 5, 6 summers in a row.
Yeah. So, but I'll work with Dan about that, and then we...
Yeah, so that was going to be my next question. You guys are in contact, and perhaps you can work on that screening with him?
Yeah.
Christopher Pagliaro Architects. I spoke with Mr. Toscano yesterday after he had the meeting, and my client's very sensitive to what you're looking for from your property with the views. We had filed, and my assumption to this whole thing was, let's get through what we filed, and whatever the two of them negotiate for in a neighborly way, we'll resubmit the planning and zoning for review with that, in regard to that screening, because my client is very sensitive. He experienced your property and expressed to me that he understands
through my side.
I think we don't need another plan.
Right, well, the commission can kind of keep it general in terms of working out the details.
As long as it's in the same frame of some sort of screening. Or
Same concept of,
we can work
if there's a few less, a few more, a few different species.
I don't think we'll need, you two guys to resubmit another plan, keep this hearing open, in case you submit another plan, and we think you can work with it, especially as spring comes, it might change, you might change your mind, what you want to do, whatever.
There's a meadow right here under the pool, where the pool is, basically. There's a labyrinth of woodchuck holes, must be miles underneath there. There's also a dead dog buried right there. So you're going to find that. That was just put there in July, so I don't know. In any case, that's. Is there anything else we should know?
Jimmy Hoffa's in the driveway.
It's Halloween. Is this dog going to come back from the dead?
I don't know how high this building is going to be, but obviously, from back here, screening isn't an issue, but up front, it obviously would be. And as I said, the winds will take these trees and they will knock them over if you're not careful. So.
We'll certainly make sure that the height of the building, conforms to the zoning codes.
Yeah.
They obviously can't just put a 90-foot
No,
skyscraper.
it looks like it's going to be beautiful, and
Yeah, so.
I'm looking forward to a new neighbor.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else from the general public like to speak towards this application? I am seeing none. So looking at our usual checklist, it looks like Mr. Canis has signed off on this, which is normally what we would do it open. There's no traffic or anything. So I don't see any reason to keep this hearing open, unless you guys think we need to continue for any reason. No? Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Great. I'll make a does anybody want to make a motion to close the hearing?
Yep.
Amy makes a motion?
Yep.
Jamie makes a second. All those in favor? 5-0. Hearing's
Thank you.
Thank you. We will
Thank
deliberate on
Go
this.
Yankees.
Thank you, guys.
Later tonight.
Maybe tonight, maybe not.
These subdivided lots, the original home is actually served from a common drive over here. This is lot 1, and then lot 3 is in the back here. There's no plans that I know of right now on lot 1. Lot 3, we're just here to talk about lot 2, which was purchased about a year ago, a little less than a year ago. I outlined the existing home here, and the proposed addition is there. And then there's a small equipment pad that's going to be positioned just to the east of that addition. I think the most notable feature is that it is in a floodplain. The existing home meets your current flood hazard regulations. It's got a vented crawl space and a first floor well above the flood elevation. And this is designed to match with a similar vented crawl space and a first floor well above the flood elevation. When we did the subdivision, we installed a very large infiltration system on this lot. It actually helps treat stormwater from the road and a theoretical lot 1, and it is large enough to handle that minor increase in impervious coverage, which we have a drainage statement on the record saying that, and Joe has reviewed and concurred with. So, pretty straightforward one.
Okay. It's a very straightforward application to the point where, is there a reason we're seeing it? Just because of the flood?
Right.
They
It's
needed
in the
the
flood
waiver?
zone.
They needed the waiver?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I don't have any specific questions. It's very minor. Amy, anything?
I'm good.
Thanks.
All good.
I'm good.
Okay.
Gotta have some easy ones every
Good
now
for
and
me.
Comment.
This is a public hearing, so I will open this up to the general public. If anybody would like to make a comment. Seeing none. Okay. Joe's comments were very minor. They can all be addressed at permit time, right?
As conditions of
And
approval.
we can make them in as conditions of approval, right?
Yep.
Should be pretty straightforward. Okay, that being said, anybody wants to make a motion? Mike makes a motion to close. Amy makes a second. All those in favor? 5-0.
All right.
Great.
Thank you.
Is Harry here? I thought I saw him
Yeah, he's in the hallway.
mulling in the hallway somewhere. Okay, we are now going into a general meeting. Time permitting, we have some time. Harry, welcome. Let me read this in. Amendment to the Coastal Site Plan Review number 260, B as in boy, flood damage prevention application 297A as in apple, land filling and regrading application 568, PL-24-39, 224 LNP LLC, 224 Long Neck Point Road. These are amendments to a previously approved plans relative to the elimination of the subterranean addition, changes to the guest house and pool area, landscaping, and regrading of the property. Gentlemen, what do we got here? We got a little bit of a
Waves the board.
change in application?
Yeah,
Or
this,
the board is fine.
Landscape plans are on the computer.
Landscape plans are on the computer. We do have hard copy, old fashioned, want to try it the old fashioned way with the,
Is it in the?
it's also uploaded, yes?
It's uploaded, yeah.
No, then we'll
Oh,
go there.
we
Fine.
can access it.
Okay, guys, what do we got? We're changing around a previously approved plan to not include a basement here. Is that it?
Yeah,
And then
correct.
that messes up all the fill.
Yeah, this was originally, the project was originally approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission and approved on May 14th of this year. The applicant's engineer, Harry Rocheville of McCord Engineering, approached us last month regarding some proposed revisions to the plans approved by the commission. Those include the elimination of the subterranean addition to the residence, which has resulted in some changes to the earthwork and grading, as well as some changes around the guest house and pool area, and rear yard landscaping. We did refer the application out to Joe Canis of Ty and Bond to take another look at this one. He submitted comments for the record dated today, October 29th, noting no additional comments. Harry Rocheville from McCord is here this evening to present the details and answer any questions you may have.
Since this welcome. Name?
Thank you, Harry Rocha with McCord Engineering, professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. I'll briefly touch on what was already approved and then run you through the changes. So the plan you see here is a previously approved plan. It was a subterranean addition to the back of the residence shown here. That walked out to grade below, and then a pretty gradual slope down to the lawn in the rear yard. Guest house over here, and a pool over here that replaced an existing guest house and pool. In addition, a garage addition approved in the front yard with some driveway improvements. There's a current horseshoe driveway. You know, we're sort of just relocating those curb cuts. None of those curb cuts have changed since the original approval. And then, a bunch of hardscaping in the back here on the upper level, then walks down around the side here via retaining walls to the backyard. Same thing as the pool, a couple steps down to the rear yard here. There was a detention system proposed then that treated the water quality volume for the previous proposed impervious area. What we're currently proposing is generally the same, but with the biggest omission is that subterranean addition. As Fred mentioned, that results in a lot less material needing to be removed from the property. I provided a summary of changes to the commission, and I estimate there will be about 60 to 70, 65% less material removed from the property as a result of this omission of the subterranean addition. If you recall, in the last time that we met regarding this application, that was one of the biggest concerns of the commission. In the meantime, we coordinated with the contractor and came up with a hauling plan that we coordinated with Fred and Jeremy, which was all set as far as I understood. But now we essentially won't be needing to do that much. There should be plenty of room to stockpile the material in the front yard and work at a typical construction pace.
How come you're pulling it? Hit ledge?
I think dollars.
Ah.
Don't want to speak for the clients, but that's my assumption. Guest house and pool, which, as you see, we're still proposing a guest house and pool. They're generally in the same location with just slightly different configurations in location, but a comparable amount of impervious area proposed, same as the previous application. We are capturing all of that impervious area and sending it to a detention system in the rear yard. You'll see the garage, as I mentioned, didn't change. Driveways didn't change in area. We're still capturing all those areas and bringing it to the detention system in the rear yard. Since that subterranean addition has been removed, there is no more walkout to grade. Now we're walking down to a lawn that is at the same elevation as the pool, and then that will walk down to the existing elevation in the backyard. So instead of having that one big wall from the Long Island Sounds view, we're terracing that area now. And then another change, sort of for the better of the application since the last approval, the state of Connecticut has updated the stormwater quality manual. Now, for water quality purposes, we're required to treat 1.3 inches of runoff as opposed to 1.0 inches of runoff to satisfy water quality volume requirements. So the detention system did get larger, even though we have a comparable amount of impervious surface. We are now treating more runoff due to the new state guidelines. As Fred mentioned, we received comments from Joe Canis today. He had no comments on the application. We have Emily Geerton with the Landscape Architecture Company and Robin with the architectural firm as well, if you have any questions for them. But that is pretty much summarizes the application. I think it's generally consistent with the Commission's last approval, and happy to answer any questions myself as well.
We got sign off on Joe on the bigger stormwater retention system. I assume the maintenance plan originally covers it's just a bigger system. So it's
exactly.
Not like you don't have to do more.
Same structures.
Same stuff. It's going to be in the same general place, just bigger too, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And we also did submit an updated DCIA form for this project.
Okay. So that was the only question I had. Before we just go over the nickel summary of the landscape changes, do we have any questions for Harry, starting off on the changes to the structures?
No, I'm good, thank you.
No? Okay. How about the 2-minute summary of the landscape changes?
Sure.
Is it just to do with the terracing of that little area, or is there?
I'm happy to bring it up on the board, but
no, it's okay. Just we can see it here.
Okay.
Just say your name and
Emily Gerton, landscape architect. So I think the little version, which hopefully you have on your screen too, is that although there is still a retaining wall, the net result is that it will be planted. The clients also do not want to have a large view of a wall, so we're going to soften it with planting, albeit vines, shrubs, perennials. It's a shorter wall as well, and then we're also terracing it, so the impact overall is much more of a garden lush feel.
A softer feel.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's just in that one area where you're no longer going out to grade, right?
Correct. So we're coming at a higher elevation.
Yep.
And overall softer look.
All right, that's sort of what I thought it was, but okay. That's nothing else for me. Amy, anything? Mr. Nutter?
I think it's fine.
Oh, no.
George? Jamie? No? Okay. This is not a public hearing, since this is just a amendment to a previously approved application. So we can just vote on it now, and that settles it, right? Right. So okay. Do we need to make a motion to vote? No.
We just make a motion.
Yeah. Anybody make a motion to vote approved as amended? Amy makes a motion. George makes a second. All those in favor? 5-0. Plan's updated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Well, what do we have here? Deliberations. Do we want to deliberate quickly on either of the two, or we want to punt them? Anybody? Okay, we'll do the quick deliberations then, because I think they should be fairly straightforward. So the first one, Long Neck Point Road, we just heard. Generally, I get the land trust issues, but it seems like they're not really changing anything that's going to affect that. It's the natural slope of the land. If anything, they're making it better by putting a retention system in where there is none now. Those trees are pretty dead. I looked at it too. We took down a tree that wasn't half as dead on my property 4 or 5 weeks ago, and we thought that tree was atrocious, so these things got to go. So other than that, I thought the seemed pretty straightforward. We'll have to do some sort of keep the trucks on the road, especially if they're doing it in the springtime when school starts. And obviously the neighbors are sort of cognitive now of the never-ending stream of dump trucks going up and down Long Neck Point Road, and this one's all the way at the end of it too. So we'll just have to monitor that. And Long Neck Point has a lot of walkers, and now there's Great Island, and more people are over there, and a lot of stuff.
A lot of parkers.
A lot of parkers, yep. Yeah, big time. So that's pretty straightforward. Anybody have anything else we want to bring up, mention, talk about in terms of
I'm glad
conditions of
to
approval?
hear that they're working with the neighbor
Neighbors, yeah.
on the other end, because if he, Just as you make changes in elevation changes and put in new screening,
Yeah.
you know, it can change water patterns, you know, unintentionally. So I'm glad that they are in communication and, you know, that they've represented that they're willing to work with him too. So that's.
Yeah.
Like,
We'll write in to keep it
Yep.
on that, at least certainly on the northern slope, keep it softer, you know,
Yep.
and they can amend it as.
Sensitivity to the grades.
Yeah, if they want to change out this type of plan for that to make the neighbor happy and to fix it, who cares?
Okay.
That's all I was gonna say, is I think that just
And-
leaving some flexibility to work with the
Yeah,
neighbors.
I mean, and obviously, I mean, I don't really know the nuances of of the easement rights. I'm assuming that they're not gonna block that at any point during their construction. That, you know, they wouldn't anyway, because there wouldn't be a parade of trucks blocking people's access through there, because they themselves need the access to
Yeah.
go through there. So I don't envision a
Plus, they could always just walk around it.
problem with that, yeah.
Okay. I don't think it's not a set stone path either, like a
Yep.
fenced out, denoted, this is my path to get to
Yeah.
Long Island Sound. So how much is that easement even actually being used? It didn't look like it was being used
Yeah.
much, based on, you know, no trail or anything. George, anything?
No, sir.
All right, so motion to, or not a motion, but draft up an approval, some of the conditions.
Yep.
That we talked about here. The second one, which was
Super straightforward.
Super straightforward. Just include, unless anybody has anything negative to say about that, just include Candace's comments for, you know, conditions of approval, which were very straightforward comments. It's 3 of them as it is, so that's pretty general.
Okay.
Yep. All right, we'll try and get those approved as quickly as we can. Just take some stuff off.
Do we need to amend the removal of the fill, the plan that was in place, or no?
For the last one, for
For 244?
244 or 224?
Oh, I don't know, sorry, I was skipping past that. I know we already voted, but never mind, it's an afterthought, and I know we did already vote. Anyway, but it is a technicality, I was just wondering if that.
Yeah, we'll put it on there, right?
The,
For 244, you mean?
sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I skipped
The
past.
fact that the trucks
Back
are
to the-
224.
By default.
Oh, yes, going back to Harry's project,
Yes.
that he doesn't need the truck schedule anymore.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we'll
Yeah.
note that in the approval
That's what I
letter.
was, yeah,
Thank
sorry,
you.
I'd skipped past that.
Because he
It's part of the
he
amendment.
submitted it, and now he's saying, we've scaled it back so much in terms of the grading. So
Yeah.
when Fred or I write the letter confirming it, we'll put in there
Strike
that
that thing.
no need for, yeah, thank you, Jamie.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good stuff. All right, so I got nothing else to add. Director's report, anything?
The only thing I'll note, which we'll talk more about at future meetings, is we've been working with Joe Canis and the Public Works Department. They're doing a new stormwater manual. You heard Harry refer to it, that the state has changed a number of standards, technology's changed. The last stormwater manual was done in 2003. Now it's like 20-some years old. So Joe's been working on drafts. We've sent it out to other engineers to look at. We had a good conference call this week. And the result of that will be an adopted manual, which we'll bring to the commission after the first of the year, and we'll look at modifying some of the zoning regulations to match the
Bring it
new
in line.
manual. So that's in the works. Wanted to give you a heads up, but it was fresh in my mind when Harry mentioned some of the new standards there.
And then for upcoming meetings, we got a bunch of busy ones, huh?
Yes, the next meeting is scheduled for November 12th, which is 5 or 6 public hearings, hopefully nothing too significant. The 19th will be the next hearing on Thorndale Circle. And then, as Fred mentioned, we're trying to get a meeting to discuss town plan consultants,
Potentially the 5th,
where potentially we could do it maybe Monday the 4th,
the 4th.
or might work for everyone.
Yeah.
The advantage of the fact that no public's involved is you can do it during the day, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So whatever time works for you. Fred, you were thinking originally, depending on people's schedules. Maybe
Right.
4 o'clock works,
Yeah.
might take an hour, and
Yeah.
might take less.
Yeah. Right now, I think George, Adam, Amy have both confirmed the 4th at 4 o'clock works. Do we have Mike, Jamie? Yeah, okay.
We'll get Steve to figure it out.
Yeah. We'll
And
reach
then
out to
the
Steve.
Yeah.
What about the
what's the
26th?
26th? I will most likely not be here for that one.
Okay.
So in case there's a quorum issue.
And just for reference, the
Anything
Thorndale on the 19th, they're still trying to double up the ARB and us?
Yes, we spoke about that. We met with them earlier today. They'll be going to the ARB at 7, and at that time, we'll be in the auditorium. We're going to cover more traffic. We'll probably take more public comment, and then...
Do we anticipate this will be the last hearing? with Thorndale, or
We
we'll have
discussed
more?
that today. I think they are uncertain, as are we.
Okay.
I guess it depends what happens.
The
And
police
we-
commission seemed uncertain that they would get to
Right.
the full report by the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, the police commission still hasn't looked at it, and ARB, they did meet with the fire marshal earlier today, so you'll hear
Some of
his
that.
comments next time. So,
That's why I bring up now, P and Z on the 26th, to the extent that the 19th
Right.
doesn't happen, with Steve being out on that.
right,
I will not be here on the 26th.
Okay.
so.
that's good to
So
know,
the
because,
19th, if that does not happen on the 19th,
or if they go ahead but we don't conclude,
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
still
we-
tackle public comment and traffic, and then we
Okay.
can maybe keep it open for
okay.
police,
Yeah.
ARB's approval. Although, even if we did close it because it's a town body, we could include
a report.
ARB's.
I think
Report.
we spent a lot of time discussing that today, how we can handle that.
Yeah, but
But won't know till that
we
evening.
reset the clock with the extension last meeting, right?
We did talk a lot about extension time and making sure that the commission has certain time to keep the hearings open, and whether it needs to be continued again to the 26th. We explained the
So-
commission's desire not to have a special meeting in December.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when would it need to be approved by?
You have
Or
65
declined by
days
decision by?
Once we
from the
close
close of the hearing. So,
Success-
as I explained,
Render a decision.
If the
Okay.
hearing closes November 19th, you would have presumably till January 20-something.
Okay, okay.
So we'd have to deliberate on it like the first week in January.
Yep.
Yep.
Because it might be a double deliberation night too.
Yep.
And there is some additional extension time left.
Yeah, that's what I'm
So,
saying.
if we need to utilize that, the applicant seems willing to grant that additional extension time.
Okay. Okay, so that's good. This is a special meeting, so no other business can be considered. Motion to adjourn. Mike makes a motion. Jamie makes a second. All those in favor?
Yep.
Look at that.
All right. Look
65
at that, you said 8:10.
65 minutes.